in Washington in the 8-9.
That'd be fun.
I would tune in, and UCF had the lead on LSU. They had them where they wanted them for a little bit at the beginning.
The last 2 games for UCF showed me why they're nowhere near the top, one of the top football teams.
Also,
even though they're winning, because that Memphis game was
bizarre.
bad. They gave up over 200 yards rushing to
Memphis
one player
had a better
and a
year
half.
than expected.
Yeah, but they shut him down the second half.
But you're right. But they were a one-dimensional offense that could only run the ball, and they gashed you at that one thing. You're supposed to have a good defense. You should be able to stop a run up the middle.
Yeah.
That's what they were doing.
Right.
It's different than the pass where the guys are just faster than you. It's power right up the middle. That's where you're supposed to have a strength as well. And then they did it again with LSU.
I actually watched the Fiesta Bowl from start to finish, and this is to add to your point. The reason why people dog on UCF so much, they had a 14-3 lead in that football game.
Right.
Back-to-back touchdowns. They had a touchdown and a pick six.
Pick six.
All the momentum was there, and then they just couldn't compete with LSU's
Their offensive
line crushed them. Like their running back was getting 6, 7, 8 yards.
That's
a
where
carry.
you
It was
use
nuts.
back-to-back playoff appearances as a huge recruiting chip, and you're ready next time.
I don't think.
I agree. That's
and
what
so
that
that's
was.
where that's where UCF is still not being able to utilize what they've done with 2 undefeated regular seasons, which they should be able to use more than they are by getting into the playoffs and then making that recruiting pitch that we're just getting started.
That's why I thought they should have accepted that deal with Florida, but that's just my opinion. It's
come
3
on,
games against Florida, though. I understand that it's not equal, and Florida, that's showing Florida's dominance over the UCF, that they can do that, but
Right.
win the game.
Yeah.
If you're better, just win the game. That's all it comes down to, right?
But
Winning the game.
that's the deal that a Big Ten team gives to a MAC team.
I agree.
And
But
that's where
but-
UCF feels slighted and disrespected.
But they're in the smaller conference. Mm-hmm. That conference
how
that
you
they
get
play
respect.
in. That conference that they play in plays UConn. They were 0-11, 0-12.
Oh, yeah, no, they were historically horrific.
Terrible.
Paul, their Saturday night
That's a team that you
so
played
bad.
this year.
Their
UConn.
Their
Right.
Saturday night football game, like their big time prime time game, was against Cincinnati, the Bearcats.
That's a product of the conference.
That's
Yeah,
what I'm saying. That's why he's right. They should have done that deal with Florida because that's the only.
They could have got a Saturday primetime game, week 2, Florida UCF.
Right.
They even beat Auburn last year, and nothing came of it.
But I think
that's
Auburn
'cause-
was a total fluke last year.
Oh, yeah, they're
Really?
bad. They showed this year how
showed
bad they were.
They had 2 miraculous plays that won them the Georgia and the Alabama game to make that SEC championship game, where Georgia killed them in the championship game, and then they got beat by UCF. Following that, to go back to 9-3, that was their final record. It wasn't even a 10-win team.
Also, I'd like to point out for clarity, Bama fans, you do enough to be annoying. Stop talking about that Fiesta Bowl and saying, like, for clarity, Alabama scored 29 points and beat this team 29-0. Alabama is not UCF. Okay, so stop trying. It's apples and oranges. Okay, stop picking on UCF. They don't compare because Alabama.
UCF wants to be compared, though. They want to be.
That's true.
They proclaim themselves as national champions, which Alabama won. Alabama dominated the team that you got dominated
It's
by.
not the same. It's not the same.
It's not the same.
It's
It really that I
How is it
don't
not
I
the
do
same?
not subscribe to the.
It's not the same
I beat you because they beat you and I beat.
No, it's not that. It's not that. It's not who won. It's how they won. How they won.
Okay.
Alabama gave up 0 points and like 100 yards.
Yeah, but
You're using the
reason-
aberration to
in
prove a
LSU.
point. I don't.
The reason
I
it's
still,
not a fair comparison is not
you can't
everybody's
use
Alabama.
Bama. Yeah.
That's my issue with that. Not
But
everybody.
you said you beat Alabama
But you
by being
can't-
national champions. They did the exact same thing last year that you're
UCF
saying that I can't do in the
I'm
Alabama.
not saying that was right. I'm not saying that was a good thing, but I'm
UCF
saying
doesn't want to be compared to the Bama Clemson level because no one realistically
That's
should believe
that's
they're on the
unfair.
Bama Clemson level. They want to be compared to Florida, Michigan,
Then why do
Texas,
they not want to play?
USC.
They want to keep playing their little schedule and then just keep winning their 12 games and do what?
he's got
Get
a point.
invited like Notre Dame did.
They did that last year and they didn't make it.
Exactly,
name-
and so that's where it's not fair. Notre Dame got in with an undefeated, not
Who was
Power
UCF's
5
best
conference.
win? Who was UCF's best win?
Who's Notre Dame's?
Michigan. They beat Michigan.
Pittsburgh, I think.
They beat Michigan. Michigan was 10-2. They were the number 4 team in the
I
country.
know for a fact that I can say this right now with almost no knowledge or research, that I bet that UCF within the last 2 years has had a victory over a better team than Notre Dame has. I bet
Probably.
UCF's best win is against a better team than Notre Dame. What's Notre Dame? Did they play USC last year? I don't know. Or this year? Excuse me.
Yeah, they did. That was the last game.
Okay.
USC was like never good either.
But that
either
or
that or,
Syracuse versus
Yeah, it's usually that one.
UCF, and I know it's not this year, and comparable best would be the regular, because they both had undefeated regular seasons. The only difference is it's a small conference versus no conference. I don't like that.
Here's how I look at it. I have two minds about UCF.
This is the now that they have let Notre Dame in, it shows the hypocrisy of UCF.
But here's the problem, though. Here's why I had the two minds. UCF, yes, wants a seat at the table, and they should schedule better because that's the reason why Notre Dame gets in, and the reason why Oklahoma or that is they haven't built themselves up to be this big brand yet. That's the whole thing about college football. You just got to look pretty. That's all it is.
Oh, it's all
a
about
beauty
branding.
contest.
It's completely about branding.
So that's why they're not allowed at the table. And the reason I said it's not fair to compare to Alabama, that's like saying, oh, well, the Browns lost to the Steelers. But for posterity's sake, the Patriots beat them by 30 points. Like, they're not comparable. One team is the Browns, one team is the Patriots. It's not comparable.
But it is if you're comparing the same team. It is if you're comparing one team. If you're saying that statement, you're
being
comparing
an SEC powerhouse.
No, listen, no.
If you use them as an individual comparison
Hear 'em out.
and not as this equates, I hear what you're saying, Brandon, but I
LSU's the same team, probably technically worse because they didn't have their best cornerback.
That's true.
And they didn't have their defensive line.
They had like
They had backup defensive
10
linemen
players.
and kicked your ass.
well, it's not the same. I'm not conceding the point. You're right, but I'm not conceding.
they're not where they think they are, UCF.
No.
And I'll
That's what I want to say.
I'll
Yes.
give you that point that and I agree. And so maybe they should take a deal like Florida gave them. But
If you're not playing against these teams more, you're never going to know what it's like to play them, be able to beat them.
I think they might be waiting for an invite.
Invite
The
to what?
ACC, the
That's-
ACC or the SEC.
That's not going to happen.
They can still play Florida if they're in the ACC.
But
Not every year.
Florida State does.
Wouldn't be guaranteed.
Florida State does.
That's true.
that's because
But
that's
would
like
Florida
Iowa,
really
that's like saying
want-
Iowa and Iowa State do. You know,
Why can't Florida UCF
because
if
it's
but I don't think Florida would
established.
want it.
Florida and
It's-
UCF doesn't have an established
It's an early
rivalry
season game.
with a trophy.
But you're right. If Florida thinks they're that much,
FSU and Florida play for a trophy. So does Florida and Miami, but they haven't played in like 4 years because their schedules just won't match, so they just don't do it.
But look at it this
they
way.
have a trophy.
Look at it this way. If you're Florida, though, I can see where he's coming from. Because if you look at it from, I made the statement that Florida wouldn't want it, and then after I said that, I thought, wait, no, they would, because they would definitely take that matchup every year. Because if they think they're as good as they are,
They wanna show
they
they're
think
the
it's
best
going to
in the
be.
state.
Oh man, every year we're starting 1-0.
Well, if they're the best in the state, why don't they offer a deal to FSU?
UCF.
That's where I would start.
Well,
FSU
shit,
has
man.
been-
I'm not gonna
FSU
start
has
with
been a.
Florida.
If you're gonna do that, you got 7 schools you got to invite. Be like, hey, we got to
like,
prove
no,
we're
no,
the
no,
best
no,
in the
no,
state.
No, not like that.
It
like
becomes
just,
a state competition.
Right,
instead
it's a
of-
state
I see.
conference at this point.
They beat UCF, and they're a higher level of competition than FIU or
FAU, yeah, either of those teams.
Yeah, and so the three above them are Miami, Florida State, and Florida.
Well, it's always been 3 schools, yeah.
So you start with the weak one. I mean, if you pick them off, that's how you do it.
If you go with the weak one, you go with Miami. They can't even figure out their head coaching situation.
Miami-
Did you see that nonsense?
Oh yeah, that he took the deal.
Manny Diaz?
Yeah, after backing
Ooh,
out.
that was
Yeah,
dumb.
that's yeah.
That
he's-
happens more often than you would want to admit, though.
No,
Oh, I'm sure. It's
colleges
unfortunate. It's
are
unfortunate for those
sleazy
schools.
and they lock
It
in
happens in the
recruits and then
NFL.
jump ship.
Bill Belichick did that. Before Bill Belichick went to the Patriots, he was going to coach the Jets.
Yep.
And then a couple months later,
Yeah,
was like,
Parcells told him not to.
peace out. I'm going to
Josh
go.
McDaniels did that last season.
Peace out. I'm coaching over here now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which Temple, you're like, okay. You weren't really proven as a coach, so
Well, he was leading
coach.
He was leading one of the top defenses in the country.
A
That
year
was his-
ago, not this year.
No, this year they were still one of the best. They just
Still
had a terrible
sucked.
offense. You're right. They weren't 12-0 last year. They shouldn't have been 12-0 either, though, because they won all those super close games.
I think Mike Richt.
It's another banner win or whatever.
Yeah, I think Mike Richt finally learned. He's like, I'll never win a championship, so I'm going to retire.